Hello, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm your host, William Kirk, president of Washington Gun Law. Today, I want to take a few minutes and talk to you about the Castle Doctrine and the Stand Your Ground law, and how does that apply to you as a lawful and responsible gun owner here in Washington State. First, let's talk about what each of these two legal doctrines truly mean, and then we'll talk a little bit about what it means to you as a resident of Washington State. The Castle Doctrine is a legal doctrine which says that essentially a person's home or abode is in fact their castle. And if they are being assaulted therein or being invaded or broken into, they have absolutely no duty to retreat, and they can use any lawful means necessary to defend themselves, their family, their guests, or their personal or real property. And of course, the force used must be reasonable. It cannot be excessive to what's necessary to repel the threat. The Stand Your Ground law is a law quite similar to the Castle Doctrine, which says that if you are lawfully in a location and you are being attacked, you are under no duty to retreat. You can stand your ground and defend yourself by whatever reasonable means is necessary, as long as, again, the force used is proportional to the force in which you are trying to repel. Now, as we're probably aware, there are several states around the country right now that have codified stand your ground laws and castle doctrines actually in their statutes. And we're seeing great legislative debate around the country as these Second Amendment rights are so immensely under attack right now, where some states are trying to establish more definitive stand your ground laws. We're seeing other states that are actually trying to repeal their stand your ground laws or castle doctrines. In Washington State, we have never codified a stand your ground law or a castle doctrine into the RCWs. Instead, it's a right given to us through case law in Washington State. In particular, a case that I want to share with you is a case called State v. Williams. State v. Williams is a case published in 1996, but it's a case that's has extreme precedential value within the criminal justice system. Prosecutors and defense attorneys all know this case basically off the top of our head. The case stands for the proposition that one who is assaulted in a place that they have the right to be has no duty to retreat in order to claim self-defense. And flight, no matter how reasonable an alternative it is not required. It is lawful for a person who is in a place where that person has the right to be and who has reasonable grounds for believing that they are in fact being attacked to stand their ground and defend against such attack by the use of lawful and reasonable force. The law does not impose a duty to retreat. So unlike having a separate castle doctrine or a stand your ground doctrine, in Washington State, we have a very simple rule, which is that you are under no duty to retreat. Now, like any rule of law, there are exceptions to it. So let's go over that real quick. The rule of law in Washington says that if you are lawfully located in a place and then are attacked, you at that point have no duty to retreat. So certainly if you're in your home, your place of business, out in public where everyone is allowed, into somebody else's home that you've been invited into a business in which you have lawful reasons to be doing business in there, any place where you are lawfully allowed to be, you are under no duty to retreat. Now, that means that even if retreat is the most reasonable thing to do, perhaps the most readily available thing to do, you are in fact under no duty to do so. That's what the law says. Why it's very important when you're a lawful and responsible gun owner in Washington State that you know what the law says you can do. It's equally important that you understand what you should do in situations. Having represented people who have been involved in lawful shootings, I can assure you that even if the law justifies it, the impact on that individual's life is life-altering. It is a horribly terrible situation to go through, both emotionally, professionally, legally, and financially. And so I would encourage anyone, if you can avoid armed conflict, to do so in all instances. The second thing you have to understand is, as an attorney who defends these cases, there is a big difference between a situation in which a person was attacked and immediately began to use force to defend themselves versus a situation in which a person was attacked, attempted to retreat, even though they were under no duty to do so, and only after the perpetrator continued to pursue them did they then inflict harm upon them through self-defense. And from a legal and factual standpoint, that latter scenario is a much more defensible position. I'm not saying that the first position is not defensible, but what it really comes down to when you're in the courtroom is evidence. And the more evidence that you have that a person attempted to avoid conflict before becoming engaged in it, the better your self-defense claims will be. Well, I hope that helps you better understand that you're under no duty to retreat here in the state of Washington. In summary, even though a lot of states have a Castle Doctrine or a stand your ground law actually codified in their statutes, Washington state has never actually placed them into law. Instead, we are clearly under no duty to retreat, as announced time and time again by our appellate courts. This precedential value is respected and recognized by prosecuting attorneys and defense attorneys all throughout the state. Essentially, if you are located in a place where you are lawfully allowed to be and you are there for lawful purposes, you are under no duty to retreat and can use any reasonable force necessary to protect yourself. You may have more questions about this, and that's fine. Remember, part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner in Washington state is knowing the law at all times and how it applies to you in each and every instance that you may find yourself. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com. You can always give us a call at 425-765-0487, or you can follow us on Facebook. Thanks again for watching Washington Gun Law TV, the home of Washington's responsible and lawful gun owner. We look forward to seeing you next time.